What's going on, guys? I'm Dominic with Budget Plants. Today, we're putting plants aside just for a second, okay? And I'm gonna show you guys step by step how I installed my new water main. And I'm gonna show you how I did it for under 300 bucks. How, one might ask? Well, I did not use copper. Let's check it out. So, this leak has been the absolute bane of my existence. I'm rolling along, I'm doing my landscape project, I'm seeing this thing leaking, and I can't go on to do my irrigation because if I install my irrigation, then I'm gonna have to work backwards because this thing is just gonna keep leaking and leaking and leaking. So I gotta fix this leak first. Now, here's the problem. The house is super old and this could be one of the original valves. I don't know. Either way, it's bad news. I can't just spin off the old valve and pop in a new one because it's installed so close to the foundation. So I'm gonna have to cut the old galvanized pipe off and then reinstall a new valve. Now, anyone that's worked with galvanized knows what an absolute nightmare it is when it gets old and corroded. So I'm just gonna cut it off, and I know for a fact that the main line is probably just as corroded as this valve. So I'm just gonna rip the whole thing out, put in a new main line all the way back to the meter and be done with it. But it's all right, I just gotta get it done because I gotta finish my landscaping. I'm gonna grab my shovel, I'm gonna start excavating the soil around the pipe and just see where this thing goes. So, and it might be logical to assume that the water main is right in line with your water meter and comes straight up to your house to your shutoff valve. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it might tee off or kind of jog a little bit and go to a valve manifold or a hose bib. And you want to make sure that those things aren't eliminated when the new main line goes in. Now, here's a little bit of a tricky part is I have two walkways to get under. My little flagstone walkway in front, and then I have a sidewalk. I'm going to show you guys in just a little bit how to get under those. I'm not worried about it. Now, in the meantime, I'm gonna keep my trenching going. As you can see, I have a lawn area, which isn't even a lawn at all. It's actually Ruchia nana. If you guys are interested in having a alternative to lawn, dwarf carpet of stars is awesome. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a flat shovel and carefully score where I need to make my trench, and I'm gonna carefully dig out my plants, and I'm gonna put it in a plastic tray right alongside my trench. I wanna get at least 2 to 3 inches, and that'll give me enough of a root system in most cases for a lawn, or in this case, my carpet of stars. And do it as carefully as you can because we want it to look as clean as possible once we put everything back. All right, now I'm gonna start getting my trenching shovel again, and I'm gonna start digging and digging and digging. I need somewhere to put the excavated soil, so I'm gonna bring my wheelbarrow over. And using the wheelbarrow will also help you put the proper amount of soil back in the trench, okay? Don't skip on this step. And now we've trenched all the way over to the sidewalk, okay? We'll come back to that. Let's look at the meter. And just a heads up, these are usually loaded with spiders, could be black widows or whatever, so just be careful before you just stick your hand right down in there, all right? Now, in my setup, I have 3 different things happening here. I have the shutoff valve that the city uses to turn services on or off. Then we have the meter itself. Then I have a gate valve downstream of the meter in which I can use to shut off my house water. Not all houses have this secondary shutoff, okay? So you just kind of have to look and see what your particular scenario is. And in my case, because we have this secondary shutoff valve downstream of the meter, it's gonna be very, very handy. Now I'm gonna excavate all the soil downstream of the meter, again, to expose the main line. I just wanna make sure that it's not teeing off. I wanna make sure that I'm right in line. And I do see that it's not too deep and it's copper. I was thinking it was gonna be galvanized all the way. So I keep excavating and I find the copper pipe bends down at a 90-degree angle and actually sits much deeper. And as I excavate further, I see right at the end of that bend is where it connects to the galvanized pipe. So we're gonna do away with all that galvanized junk. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna leave that copper bend in. It's functional and it helps get me to the right depth. So that will be my point of connection. Now, this joint is pretty frozen, so I'm gonna spray pipe break on that. And what it does, it just helps break down the corrosion inside that joint and just helps you loosen it. Now, just a quick side note, when you're connecting two dissimilar metals like galvanized and copper, you need a special coupling that prevents electrolysis between the two, because that will cause very rapid corrosion, and you don't want that in your pipes. Now, in my project here, I don't need one. I'm not connecting copper to galvanized. The material that we're gonna use for the main line is Schedule 80 PVC. It's just a much thicker walled PVC that is rated for higher pressure. This is what we're gonna use, and this is how we're gonna save a ton of money by not going with copper. Two other very commonly used PVC pipes would be Class 200 and Schedule 40. Now, Class 200 is a very, very thin walled pipe. Generally speaking, I stay away from that. Now, Schedule 40, which has a slightly thicker wall, can work as a main line, but I want to go a little bit beefier on mine. I don't want to have any issues with it down the line, so that's why I am going with Schedule 80. It's super strong, super durable, and it's just gonna give me really good longevity. Another reason to go with Schedule 80 is because it's much easier to work with than copper. Copper requires you to sweat joints together, and if you're not skilled in that or have never done it, it's not something that you just can pick up and do without some trial and error process. For the DIYers out there that aren't too familiar with sweating copper pipe, maybe stay away from that and go with the Schedule 80 pipe. All you have to do is use primer and glue, just like you would a normal irrigation piping, and that's all you need. Now, if you are running a longer water main, there's much less friction loss through copper pipe than there is PVC. So in that case, you might want to check into which solution is going to be better for your project. You can buy a very inexpensive pressure gauge that you can hook up to a local hose bib or even attach it onto your main line, and it will tell you what your pressure is. I've already tested my pressure and I have a static pressure of 85. Okay, that's pretty normal for a single family home. And I'm only running 27 feet, so I'm not really worried too much about pressure loss. I know that the Schedule 80 PVC pipe can take up to 630 PSI, and I know that I only have 85 PSI, so I'm well within my limit. All right, so now let's get back to how we get under the sidewalks. You could spend hours digging and tunneling like you're at the beach, trying to connect the two sides of the tunnel and doing all that fun stuff. And maybe you enjoy that, maybe it's therapeutic, but I wanna go through it quick and fast, and I don't want to mess around. Instead, I'm going to build a PVC device that I can hook up to my hose that will just shoot through the dirt like a hot knife through butter. Here's what we need. A piece of 1-inch Schedule 80 PVC pipe cut to a little longer than the length of whatever walkway you're going under. 2 1-inch 3/4 male adapters, 3/4 female hose PVC adapter, and a brass pressure nozzle. That's it. And you're just going to connect all those together, and what you've just made is a super high pressure blaster PVC water tunneling thing, and it's just gonna save you so much time. Lay this thing in the ground as level as possible and let the water rip. And you should be through in less than 3 to 5 minutes. In my project, it went through in like under 60 seconds. And once I'm through, I'm done. I pull out my amazing blaster tunneling water jet thing, and I'm gonna set it aside for the next project because it's just a handy tool to have, especially when you're doing landscaping all the time. Now it is time to lay the pipe in. I want to cover the end of the pipe with duct tape to prevent dirt from getting in as the pipe is going through the tunnels. The other great thing about PVC is that it can flex really well, which really helps me on this particular installation. I don't want to have any connections under walkways or concrete, so I'm using one long piece of pipe to get under both walkways. Now, I'm going to install something pretty cool that maybe you guys haven't seen done before. Since my hose bib was way back in my planter and I don't want to have to go spelunking through my plants every time I wanted to access my hose, I'm gonna install a hose bib in line with my water main that's actually underground. So all I have to do is dig the hole where I want my hose bib to be so my valve box can sit flush with my finished grade. I grab a T from my Box O parts, grab my glue and primer, and I'm ready to install this thing. And of course, primer should go on right before the glue to help create a better bond. Do not skimp on this part. Let it dry just a few seconds, then you can use the glue and put your part on. I glue my vertical piece to the tee first, then glue the tee to the main line. This will allow me to get a better grip on the tee when I'm gluing it, and also I don't have to cut it exact to size yet. I have room to play with and I can cut it down later. I still have some play in the pipe, so I can slide it back to align with the exact point I need to make the connection. And now that the tee is in place with my pipe stubbed up, I cut down the pipe to be the right height for the hose bib. I attach a male adapter to the hose bib and glue it on. Then just pop that valve box right on top and make sure it's at the right height, flush with your finish grade or just a little bit above, because you don't want water draining back in and finding a low point. And once you get the right height, just backfill a bit to secure the box in place. Then I attach a flexible hose to the hose bib. And there you have it. It's an awesome hidden hose bib. You can access it super easily. You don't have to traverse through your plants. It's right there by your walkway. Very, very easy and pretty simple to do. Now I'm gonna work on removing the old galvanized main line, and I'm gonna start at the house. And of course, don't forget to shut the water off first. I'm gonna use a Sawzall with a metal blade to cut out the old pipe. And now that the old pipe is out, I need to gently loosen the pipe that's threaded into the existing tee. Because remember, I'm wanting to utilize that tee and connect back into it with the new pipe. This part got a little bit tricky, and honestly, it was probably the worst part of this whole project. Even though I used pipe break and applied it several times, that joint just was completely stuck together and was the worst. It was an absolute nightmare. Probably got a few more gray hairs, maybe said some things I shouldn't have. The joint was just frozen. I had to be very, very careful though, because if you put too much pressure, it could just completely fall apart, or you could oval it and then you'll never get it off. Then you got to cut off the whole dang thing. I'm applying more pipe break. I'm tapping on it with a hammer ever so slightly, and then a miracle happens. Finally, I am able to spin that thing off. Now that all that mess is out of the way, we can start putting pieces together. The very first thing I'm gonna do is put a threaded plug in the bottom of that tee, because I'm not gonna use that portion of the tee. I clean up the threads a bit inside and get ready for the connection. Since my existing pipe was 3/4 inch, I have to start with this 3/4 male adapter. Now I'm gonna come out with a piece of pipe about 4 inches. Then from there, I'll use a 3/4 to 1 inch adapter that will fit right into my 1" 90. And notice all these parts are schedule 80, and you can usually tell that by the darker gray color. Now I should also mention that schedule 80 pipe does much better above ground. So if you have a bunch of pipes that are above ground or in direct sun, schedule 80 is definitely the way to go. If you do use schedule 40, it's really good to paint those pipes, and that'll just help prevent some weathering from the sun and elements. Now I'm going to install another short piece of pipe, and this will allow me to connect to my 1 inch male adapter, which is threaded into a 1 inch ball valve. This will take the place of the old leaky gate valve that basically just started this whole problem. Now from here, I'm gonna install a union. This is useful down the line. If ever I needed to make a repair somewhere, I can undo the union and it'll help save some time in making cuts in the pipe. Is it an absolute necessary expense? No, but it is very, very helpful down the road. I put the last run of my main line and attach a 90 to the end and a short stub up of pipe. I can then measure my remaining pipe, but I'm also going to install a T which will service my irrigation valves. I'm also going to add a separate shutoff valve for my irrigation valves. This is super beneficial if ever I needed to work on just the irrigation valves. You don't have to turn off the water to your entire house. Doing this is a small step, but a very, very helpful step, especially if your wife is in the shower. All right, now let's jump back over to the meter side. Again, disconnecting the old pipe can get a little tricky. I used the pipe break again, tapped on it a few times, a little bit of elbow grease, and finally broke loose. And again, because the existing main line was 3/4, I had to use an adapter to size up to the 1 inch pipe. So I opted for the 1 inch pipe because there's significantly more friction loss through a 3/4 inch pipe than there is a 1 inch. And I didn't want to have any adverse effects on my volume inside the house. Over 27 feet, it's probably a very nominal difference, but as long as I'm doing it, I might as well use the 1 inch instead of 3/4, right? Go big or go home. Now that I've made my connections on the meter side, I am gonna wait about 20 minutes at least before I turn any water on, and that's just to really give that glue enough time to set. Now, I'm gonna go right inside my house and I'm gonna turn on the faucet at the sink. I'm gonna turn on the shower, and this will just purge the line of any air, and it'll also help the water not hammer up against those components and potentially cause damage. So now I'm gonna jump back outside and slowly turn the water back on. And after testing everything and making sure there's absolutely no leaks, it is now time to actually backfill my trench. Now this sounds like a no-brainer step, right? But there's actually a little bit of a method to this. It's really important to backfill in layers, adding water and compacting each layer as you go. We do this to prevent sinking in our trenches and causing a sort of an uneven look. Every few inches of backfill, I'll add water to moisten the soil. Then I'll flip the shovel over and use the handle to sort of punch down. And this will help remove any air pockets as you backfill. And it'll get a much more compacted material. And this is especially important in a lawn area. You don't want it settling and sinking, and not to mention, it could create a tripping hazard. The dirt I removed should put me right back at that perfect level to install my plants or grass again. I will typically install the turf or grass a little bit higher than it was before, just about a 1/4 inch or maybe a 1/2 inch, because even though we compacted it really well, there will still probably be some settling. You would do a pretty similar process with the traditional lawn. This carpet of stars did pose a little bit more of a problem because the soil kind of crumbled away from the root system a little bit. All in all, it came out okay. There was a little bit of a regrowing in period after. Now you can't even tell that anything was there. I take my hose and I clean up all my edges and provide ample water to the installed plants. Soak them really well because they've undergone a lot of stress and they just are gonna need a ton of love right now. Now that that ridiculously tedious part is done, I'm gonna jump back over to my water meter and backfill that hole. And I'm gonna do it the same way I did my trenches, in layers with water. And when you are done, that should have taken the better part of an entire day. All right, guys, we did it. We made it through. I made it through. Tallying up the cost. Here's what we got. And we did it. We came in under budget. If I were to hire out for this project, it would have cost minimum $1,000, maybe closer to $1,500. So I am super happy. Thank you for hanging out with me today and watching me do my main line. Hopefully it gave you ideas on how to attack your own project. Make sure you please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when a new video comes out. If you have not yet been to the website, go to budgetplants.com. There's a bunch of cool, pretty plants to look at, and you can get ideas, and of course you can buy plants on there. I will see you on the next video, and as always, happy planting.